is going to be made before 2016. I don't think it's going to happen. Look, CNN is trying to come back from Armageddon, ratings Armageddon. They're trying to build up their shop over there. They don't need this. They don't need this. NBC's already labeled a far-left network. They already have problems in there. Last week, CNN and NBC said they were dropping the films. Miller is otherwise occupied this evening, but I talked with him last night. So, Miller, am I an oracle or what?
Well, you know, Billy, I think observers of the scene saw Hillary in her post-Secretary of State reverie, as we should say, and they began to sense that this thing might balloon into an IMAX project, and they just didn't have that in the budget. So I think you're an astute observer as opposed to an oracle.
Yeah, well, you're talking about maybe that no, I'm not even bothering with that.
You know why they shut it down?
Why, Miller?
They didn't want the miniseries bias for Hillary to get in the way of their regular nightly newscast bias for Hillary. So they had to make this tough call.
They're just saving it up. Okay, I got it. Now, government shutdown doesn't really affect you out in Santa Barbara. I mean, you're living large, you're on the beach, you're chasing the pelicans, whatever the hell you do out there, I don't know. But the government shutdown doesn't really affect you, does it?
No, Billy, I don't know that it affects the 800,000 people laid off from the government in Washington, D.C. Folks, I don't know if you've heard, you can get 2 years unemployment now. And they shut the zoo down. So all you lefties who are pro-animal, listen, that zoo was cruel. You should view this and see the silver lining in here. I'm not worried about the shutdown. I'm worried about when they start it back up. And I don't think the Republicans are handling this well either. Did you watch that wild jammy party 2 nights ago, Billy?
Sure.
Not exactly Sandy telling Rizzo she's dating Danny Zuko. The thing about the Republican brain trust is I don't trust their brains, and they better realize the guy who holds the bully pulpit right now is an actual bully. And lastly, I want to mention that anytime something is named after a guy, i.e. Obamacare, and he doesn't want to sign up for it, that's a really bad tea leaf.
It is a bad sign. Now,
I mean, if I was him, I'd come on and just hold a presser and say, listen, I want to talk to you about MeCare, not Obamacare, MeCare. And I'd take a laptop and I'd sign in and become participant #1. He'd lay waste to the Republican Party for the next 40 years. Just say, I'll sign up for it. But he won't, and that tells me everything I need to know.
Now, the polls say that Americans are holding Republicans more than Democrats accountable for the shutdown. Are you surprised by that?
Nah, that doesn't surprise me, Billy. I think our time's passed, man. We're like a Norman Rockwell litho. I think that we live in a country now where it's pretty well understood that the one physical malady that won't be covered under Obamacare is busting your ass, all right? And we might not crash this now, but it's going to crash itself down the road. And I kind of like what Ted Cruz did, just sending up a signal flare and said, we aren't part of this. I think it's basic stuff. It's checkbook stuff, Billy. You got to have the stubs equal the checks that are going out. We don't do that now, but that's the way the country wants it, so I lock the pod face on.
Now, were you surprised your pal from Saturday Night Live, Rob Schneider, now has defected the Democratic Party and gone over to the Republicans?
All I know is this. Eventually, if you're using common sense and you're not locked into zealotry and you just look at the way the country's going right now and say, we got to spend what we take in, we don't only spend that, you're not a zealot, you're a pragmatist. Maybe you just got pragmatic, for God's sakes.
Well, as you get older, I mean, you got to balance a budget, you got to plan, and yeah, you see things for the craziness it is. And in your state, I mean, how insane is it out there? It's every regulation in the world. You put peanut butter on, they come in and say how much and what kind of bread you have to use, and, you know, I mean, it's nuts.
Billy, I feel like in the state of California, and I am getting older, by the way, my prostate's turned into a jujube, but I feel that in the state of California, I might turn all my funds over to Sacramento because I think I'll have more access to them as a petitioner as I do the actual proprietor.
That's right.
So maybe I'll go that way since they're getting more than half now.
All right, finally, did you see the 60 Minutes profile on Killing Jesus and me, your humble correspondent? Did you check that out?
I've watched it on a perpetual loop since it happened. Hey, here's the difference between me and you, Billy. I'm a bit of a lapsed Catholic. Last time I went to confession, I said you first. But I know when the Holy Spirit visits you in the middle of the night, he tells you to write books that'll sell 10 million books. When the Holy Spirit visits me, he says, buy O'Reilly's next book, retail. Then he just flies out of the room. That's the difference between our lives.
Don't you think that maybe the Holy Spirit, both you and I, when we're on stage with the Boulder Fresher show, I mean, don't you think there might be a little inspiration coming down there? And
I think the Holy Spirit says, I wish I was God the Son so I could make a buck and get into that VIP line and meet these two geniuses.
Yeah, sure he does. A little blasphemy for Miller. We apologize. Dennis Miller, everybody. There he is.